Carlos Santana has always spoken about music in ways that sound unusual, even shocking. He once said he loves being squirted in the face by music. To many, this sounds funny, maybe even strange. But to Santana, it's the most natural way to describe how sound hits him. When a band is locked in, when every note is alive, he feels it like water splashing over him. For him, music is not just something you hear, it's something you feel. But here's the twist, he adds. Not everyone knows how to squirt their best notes. With that, Santana wasn't joking. He was speaking a truth that separates good musicians from great ones. Most can play notes. Few can make them feel like fire, light, or water bursting into your face. Santana believes music has to be alive. If it doesn't hit you in the soul, then it's just noise. This is the reason Santana has stayed legendary for over 5 decades. He doesn't just play guitar, he channels energy. But what does he mean by best notes? And why does he think so many musicians miss the mark? To answer that, we need to dive into Santana's history. From a young Mexican boy playing in Tijuana clubs to the fiery Woodstock stage that launched him, Santana has always chased one thing: pure feeling. In this journey, you'll discover how Santana shaped his sound, why his words strike deeper than they appear, and how his idea of squirting notes became a philosophy for music itself. It might sound funny at first, but by the end, you'll see exactly what Santana means and why he's right. The story begins in the late 1960s, when music itself was exploding with sound, and Santana stepped into the fire. Woodstock, 1969. 500,000 people waited under the summer sun. No one knew the young guitarist with a band simply called Santana. They were just one of the many groups scheduled to play. But when Carlos Santana walked on stage with his guitar, something magical happened. He was nervous, too nervous. Earlier that day, he had taken a dose of LSD from Jerry Garcia of the Grateful Dead. By the time his band was called to the stage, the drug had hit him hard. Santana later admitted the guitar in his hands looked like a giant snake, but instead of freezing, he poured every ounce of fear, tension, and energy into his music. The result? A legendary performance of soul sacrifice. The drums thundered, the organ swirled, and Santana's guitar screamed like it had a voice of its own. The crowd didn't just listen, they felt it hit them. It was raw. It was powerful. It was exactly what Santana meant years later by being squirted in the face by music. The notes weren't careful or polite. They jumped out like a storm, hitting the audience with rhythm and fire. From that moment on, Santana was no longer just another guitarist. He became a messenger of something larger. The Woodstock crowd went home telling stories of the unknown band that blew their minds, and Santana himself realized something important. Great music comes from surrender, not control. But even in this legendary moment, he already noticed something about other musicians. Some played perfectly, but their music lacked that living spark. They played notes, he played spirit, and that, Santana believed, was the difference between sound and life. Woodstock made him a star, but more importantly, it confirmed what he felt deep inside. Music wasn't about perfection, it was about connection. Carlos Santana has always said his guitar is not just wood and strings, it is a voice. He treats it like a partner, almost like a living being. He once explained that when he plays, he doesn't think about scales or speed. Instead, he waits for the guitar to speak back to him. This is what he means by finding the best notes. For many guitarists, practice is about precision. They aim for clean tones and technical perfection. But Santana warns that this can trap a musician. You might hit the right notes, but if they don't carry spirit, they fall flat. He describes it as music without flavor, like eating food without spices. Santana grew up listening not only to rock and blues, but also to Latin rhythms, African percussion, and even jazz. These sounds taught him that the best notes aren't always the flashiest. Sometimes, one single bent note can hit harder than 100 fast runs. It's not about what you play, but how you play it. This is where his idea of squirting notes becomes clear. To Santana, music is like water. It has to flow freely, with force, with life. A good player can release it like a gentle stream. A great player, though, can make it burst like a fountain, hitting you directly, making you feel awake. That's why Santana's solos often sound like they are crying, laughing, or shouting. He squeezes emotion out of every string. He doesn't want to just impress you. He wants to overwhelm you, like being splashed in the face by something unstoppable. But here's the truth Santana noticed. Not everyone can do this. Many artists never learn how to let go. They play carefully, afraid to make mistakes. Santana, on the other hand, embraces mistakes because sometimes the wrong note, played with soul, becomes the right one. It's this courage to play from the heart that separates him from most musicians, and it's why fans around the world still feel his music decades later. One of Santana's greatest beliefs is that music is a language beyond borders. Born in Mexico, raised between Spanish-speaking culture and American rock, he quickly understood that music doesn't need translation. You don't have to know English or Spanish to feel a guitar solo cut straight into your chest. In interviews, Santana often compares music to light and love. He says it's like sunshine. It shines on everyone, no matter their race, religion, or language. That's why when he plays, he imagines he's not just talking to fans in one country. He's talking to the whole world. This vision shaped albums like Abraxas in 1970, where he mixed Latin percussion with rock and blues. At the time, few bands dared to blend cultures so boldly, but Santana didn't care about fitting into labels. To him, the rhythm of congas, the cry of the guitar, and the heartbeat of drums all came from the same universal source. The band's sound became a movement of its own. Fans didn't just hear notes, they felt alive, connected, like they were part of something bigger. That's what Santana meant when he said the best notes are those that reach into your spirit. But not everyone agreed. Critics at first didn't know how to define Santana's music. Was it Latin, rock, jazz, blues? Some even dismissed it as too messy. Yet, the audience felt differently. Concert after concert, the crowds proved that music didn't need definitions. They didn't care about labels. They cared about the explosion of energy they felt. Santana believed this proved his point. Music at its best squirts into your soul like water breaking through walls. It bypasses the brain and heads straight to the heart. And while many artists play only for recognition or fame, Santana insists the true purpose of music is to heal. That belief would guide him for decades, especially during his later struggles, when music became more than art. It became medicine. Behind Santana's words about music lies a personal battle. Fame brought him wealth, recognition, and fans worldwide. But it also brought pain, doubt, and temptation. Like many rock stars of the 70s and 80s, Santana struggled with drugs and alcohol. For a time, the purity he preached about in music seemed far away in his personal life. Yet, even during those dark periods, Santana never lost his connection to the guitar. He said the instrument was his anchor. No matter how lost he felt, when he played, the notes reminded him who he was. The sound became a mirror, showing him both his pain and his hope. In these years, he began speaking more openly about spirituality. He turned to meditation, prayer, and even teachings outside of traditional religion. He started to see music not just as entertainment, but as a force of healing. The stage became his temple. Each concert was not just a show, it was a ritual to spread light. This philosophy reflected in albums like Supernatural in 1999, which revived his career. Songs like Smooth and Maria Maria became global hits, but Santana said success wasn't the real victory. The true joy was seeing millions of listeners around the world feel uplifted by his sound. He compared the experience to water again, music washing away heaviness, cleansing the soul. And just like before, he reminded other musicians, not everyone knows how to squirt their best notes. To him, that meant not everyone learns how to turn their pain into beauty, their struggle into sound. Santana's darkness taught him that the best notes often come from broken places, but when played with love, they don't sound broken, they sound whole. And that's why people still feel his music deep in their hearts. It carries both wounds and healing, darkness and light, all at once. As Santana grew older, he began to see himself not just as a performer, but as a teacher. He wanted young musicians to understand the deeper meaning of music. For him, the goal was never fame or fast solos. The goal was to touch people, to create moments that felt alive. In workshops and interviews, He often challenges young artists. Don't just play notes, play feelings. He explains that music is like conversation. You don't just speak words, you speak emotion. If you're angry, gentle, or joyful, people can hear it in your tone. The guitar works the same way. He often tells stories of how musicians get trapped by ego. They want to show off speed or complexity, but Santana reminds them that even the simplest melody, if played with soul, can last forever. Think of how one note from B.B. King can bring tears, or how a soft piano chord can silence a room. That's the real power of music. Santana teaches that every musician has a river inside them. Their job is to let it flow without blocking it with fear or ego. That's what he means by squirting your best notes. It's about letting your inner music burst out, unfiltered, straight from the soul. Young musicians often leave his teachings inspired, but also challenged, because what Santana asks for isn't easy. It requires honesty. It requires stripping away masks and letting your true self be heard, and not everyone is brave enough to do that. But those who listen, those who learn, find a new freedom in their playing. They stop trying to impress and instead start to express. And that, Santana believes, is where true greatness lies. Looking back at Santana's career, it's clear his strange words hold deep truth. Being squirted in the face by music is not about comedy or shock. It's about impact. It's the shock of sound that feels alive, the way notes hit you unexpectedly and make your heart race. Not everyone knows how to squirt their best notes, because not everyone understands that music is more than entertainment. To Santana, it's energy, it's healing, it's light. When he plays, he doesn't want applause. He wants transformation. He wants people to leave his shows feeling different, lighter, more alive. And fans feel it. Across decades, across countries, Santana's music continues to connect. Whether it's the fiery jam of Soul Sacrifice, the dreamy Samba Pati, or the global hit Smooth, the effect is the same. The notes don't just land in your ears, they explode inside you. Santana once said that every musician has a choice. Play from the head or play from the heart. The head gives you skill, but the heart gives you magic. Only when you let the heart lead can you squirt your best notes. And that's why Santana remains timeless. His guitar is not just an instrument, it's a fountain of feeling. His strange words, once laughed at, now sound like wisdom. Because in the end, who doesn't want to be hit in the face by something powerful, refreshing, and unforgettable? That's the gift Santana has given to the world. Music that bursts, music that heals, music that splashes across generations. And long after the last concert ends, the spray of those best notes will continue to fall on anyone willing to listen.